My guest today is the author of a book about Romania called Secrets in the Vines by Jane Golden, and she joins me over the phone. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Let's start by telling us how a lawyer like you from the South ended up going to Romania and eventually writing this mystery book about it.
My husband is also a lawyer and works for the American government. And several years ago, he had done several overseas assignments for the government, and he was asked to take a position in Romania as the American advisor to the Southeastern Law Enforcement Coalition. And that is an organization of 13 Eastern European countries that was established for the purpose of cross-border law enforcement about 10 years ago. And the main office for that agency was in Bucharest, and interestingly enough, at the very top of the Parliament House or the People's Palace or whatever you want to call it, the largest or one of the largest office buildings in the world. And anyway, he was offered that wonderful position, and I decided to leave my job and join him. And so we were there for a little over 2 years.
And when was that? What year?
Those would have been all of 2012, all of 2013, and quite a bit of 2011 as well.
Okay, so just a few years ago. So you went to Romania. Was your first trip over there to Europe and Romania as well?
I had been to Europe. I had never been to Eastern Europe, nor to Romania. So I knew very little about it before I went.
Okay. Probably just what you heard on Dracula stories and Hollywood movies and the gymnasts, probably.
And actually, that's part of why I just felt compelled to write this book, because pretty much what I learned and was told was pretty inaccurate. Romania was a wonderful country, and so much more than Dracula and vampires. It was, in fact, if anything, it was just the opposite. It was a very warm and welcoming country.
Okay, so you ended up in Romania at the end of 2011. What was your first impression when you got there?
When I was on the plane, of course, as you go closer to Romania, you get on smaller planes. And by the time you're out in Romania, you're on to Rome, which is primarily filled with Romanians. And they were all so nice. And I remember that when we landed, they clapped, which was funny to me. And then when you got off the plane, it was just nothing but smiling, happy faces everywhere. And we were met by people who greeted us at the airport. And from that moment on, I just felt like I had landed in a whole new world. It was exciting. So
your husband was working for the U.S. Embassy in Bucharest, but you had no job beside just being with him and being there.
I had no job. When I first got there, I had no job, no TV, no internet, nor a cell phone for way too long, only because I didn't know what I was doing. My husband worked. Most embassy people work long hours, and he worked as long as all day long he would work. And so I had a lot of time, and so I just learned about Romania. I would get up every morning, and I would leave our apartment, and I would walk for miles and miles, and always felt safe. And I just gradually learned to be a part of the community.
How did you find Bucharest to be, the environment, the people? What was like? It was a big difference compared to the city and the state you were coming from?
Oh, my goodness, yes. I come from a little city. It was vibrant and exciting. exciting.
Let's say what state you were coming from in the United
I'm
States.
coming from the Gulf Coast, right outside of New Orleans on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Okay.
So I live in a little beach area, and I'm used to New Orleans, and I guess in a way there were similarities, but you certainly, I felt safe all the time anywhere I was in Bucharest, and I felt the public transportation was wonderful, and there was so much to do that didn't cost. You know, when you don't work, you think about that a lot, but you can go to the museums, which were phenomenal for a couple of dollars, and you could eat out, wonderful foods, the wine was great. So if you were going to be in a position where you were not working for the first time in your life, it was an okay place to be there.
Right. So what was your daily routine there? You know, because after a while you get bored. What kind of activities you got involved with while in Romania?
Well, I felt that the one thing I lacked, because my husband primarily worked downtown Bucharest, I lacked friendships. And so I ended up deciding to join the International Women's Association of Bucharest.
This is, by the way, mentioned in the book, and I read it, and I was surprised to see that even though it's a fictional one, it has a lot of real stories and events in it.
Well, it is. You know, one of the things that they say about writers, you should always write what you know.
Right.
So although I was really the president of the International Women's Association of Bucharest, you know, we did lots of charitable things and other events. I just took a little bit of that and changed it to the International Ladies of Bucharest.
Okay.
So it is a fiction. It is a fiction.
Right, but it's also based in reality.
Yes, everything is based upon reality. Anything I say about Bucharest was as I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and as I experienced it. And I did really enjoy being a part of the International Women, which included lots of Romanians. It had a large percentage, 40%, I believe, were Romanian women that were in it. They just all had to speak English.
Right. So you were there in Bucharest, and when the idea of writing a book came about?
My husband would tell me when he would leave that I needed to journal.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I've always written a little bit, so I started journaling, and I would send those entries, those stories home. And at the same time, I also would write for the newsletters for the International Women's Association. And everyone kept saying, you need to write more, you need to write more. But mostly, I decided to do it because I wanted to change people's perception of Romania. I found that there were no books anywhere about Romania that were just simply fun and told you about Romania, but let you see it's a great place to visit and a great place to go. So that's why I strung them together to make it a fun mystery.
You mention in some of the book's chapter things about corruption, stray dogs on the streets. What was the feeling experiencing them?
Yes, I was in Romania at probably one of the most interesting times that you could be there. We arrived, and of course there was, the people have this horrible tax of 24% on their purchases, and they were protesting, and there was a lot of political activity going on, and I think there was the issue, obviously, of corruption, and it was evident all over the place. The corruption was, but as I stayed, and as we were there, they started having their first arrests and prosecutions, convictions, and sending to jail that was a new thing, people who were corrupt. So I think I was there and able to witness a change in the culture of Romania. And it's slow. It's going to be a slow change. But my friends who are still there in Romania are very optimistic and hopeful. But I was surprised at the level of the corruption.
Mm-hmm. On a personal level, how did you feel, or did you feel at all, the corruption? Did you encounter times when you were in the position where you had to bribe someone, or somebody asking for money to do something for you?
The car inspection. the car inspection.
Right, which you mentioned in the book.
Yeah, that was like mind-boggling. And so I guess the only thing that ended that whole dreadful process was that we had a car wreck and the car was totaled, and that was it. We bought a car that had already been inspected the second time. So it was fairly blatant.
Another thing that you mentioned in the book, which I found it kind of funny and interesting, and I enjoyed reading it, was your experience going into a brand name store, and the way the clerks and people in the store kind of look at people coming in and kind of judging before the getting if they're gonna do or not any purchase, and the way they're gonna be treated. Can you explain and talk a little bit about it?
It was funny. People are very fashionable in Romania. I mean, surprisingly so. You would not go to the grocery store dressed like we would dress to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, you don't see anyone in pajama going to the store.
Oh yeah, they are just. Everybody is fashionable, and they will buy the most expensive clothes and purses and not have a car, or buy the most expensive car and not have an apartment. It is a different culture than we have, and a different way of thinking. And so, therefore, when they would look at me, they would see that I was an American and I wasn't likely to buy that purse, or I wasn't likely to buy those shoes. And so it was funny the way I would be treated when I would go in those stores.
You went also outside of Bucharest. You traveled to the countryside. What was your impression of Romania outside of Bucharest?
Oh my gosh, it is the most charming, beautiful, remote location that you can go to. I always tell people, and we were told when we got there by the ambassador, that you have all of these cities like Sighișoara and Sibiu and Timișoara, and all of these gorgeous medieval cities that are out there, and people can't access them easily. The tour buses can't get there because the roads meander through the mountains, and because of that, they're still so perfect in almost every way. And so, and the little villages, the fields, every part of Romania is picturesque, but everything is different. You can go from the Black Sea and the Delta to Cluj in the north near Hungary, or in the west near Hungary, or you can go to the wine country, several areas of wine country, certainly the mountains with Braun. Brasov was my favorite place. I went there all of the time. Just a gorgeous town, candy-colored buildings, just breathtaking.
Were you surprised by the way people lived in the countryside compared to the city? Seeing the horses and the carts and the carriage and the streets and the life in the villages?
Yes. In fact, it was, the primary mode of transportation in the villages still is the horse and the cart. And when we went to stay in one of the bed and breakfasts that Prince Charles has in the remote village, it had, we took a hike, and I was with some friends from the United States, and I kept saying, we have to get back before dark. We have to get back before dark. You don't understand. There will be no city lights. Mm-hmm. This village will be pitch dark when it gets dark outside. And those kind of realities are just so foreign to us. And of course, once you've lived in Romania a while, you're used to the life in the village. You stay. I had friends who had houses in the villages, so we would stay in them. And it was a very peaceful, wonderful existence, but it's very hard for the people who have to make a living off the land. To be clear about that.
How did you like the local cuisine, the food over there?
The local, I'm sorry? The cuisine?
The cuisine, yeah, the food.
Oh, I loved it. I ate and ate. Everything was fresh. Nothing was processed.
Any favorite Romanian foods that you liked over there?
Well, my husband, of course, will tell you all the cabbage dishes. The samarle, which I pronounced wrong probably, and the pork knuckles, those types of things. You know, they had polenta is the food of choice.
Mm-hmm.
They have great schnitzel, and incredibly, their pizzas are the best pizzas I've had in the whole world. And I think it's because of the breads. They don't have processed breads and enzymes. Everything is so fresh. Their ingredients are. And so I lost 10 pounds when I was there, and I ate everything I wanted to eat, including bread every day.
So you lost weight while eating a lot in Romania. That's an interesting...
Yeah. It's just because the food is so healthy for you. It's just very healthy food.
Mm-hmm. I'm reading here from one of the chapters saying Romanians do not like to stand in a line other than to get blessed at church in their Orthodox religion tradition. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yes, they don't like to stand in line. And I think I hear sometimes that that's just a product of, you know, the pre-revolution. But it's funny, if you go somewhere, everybody, they don't stand in a line, they kind of queue up. If you're at, like, the airport, there's no line to go to the counter. It's just a mass of people. But if it's a saint's day or a Christian holiday, Orthodox Christian holiday, people will stand in single file for a mile and snake around the church. So it is funny. That was something I wasn't used to, and it was very difficult for me to get used to, the failure to stand in line at a counter.
Another thing that you compare, as you said here, I'm quoting you, if Barbie had a role model, the classic Romanian women will be it.
I'm telling you, every one of them's beautiful. I mean, if you have if you ever have an inferiority complex, that is a tough place to go. They are just beautiful women, and not just 1 or 10. It is everybody. If you're on the bus or on the train or going to work, the young professional women, they have a natural beauty, but then they also have an enormous sense of style and pride. And it didn't have anything to do with how much money they had. It had to do with just making themselves look as good as they can. I had a friend who told me that part of it was, is Romanian and left Romania, was part of it was they weren't allowed to really dress up during communism. And so therefore when that ended, they really valued the freedom to to dress nicely and look nice wherever they go.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also just beautiful. So.
So you when you stay there, you were for over 2 years the entire time you stay there, or you went back and forth, or how was it?
I only came home twice. One for a medical emergency within my family, and then I think one other, but probably both times were dealing with family members back at home. Mm-hmm. So I was there primarily the whole time.
So you kind of got used to living in the country. What were some other interesting things that you remember from living or being there? Something that you encounter that was different compared to here in the United States?
The church. I was involved in a lot of charitable events or charitable causes. But we joined church when we got there, the Church of Resurrection, and it was built by Queen Marie in somewhere around 1910 to 1911, 12. It's vague because World War I was there, and it was the only church that only English-speaking Protestant church that remained in existence in all of the communist countries, and it's still here. But it was such a small little church and such a struggle to keep it financially operating because in Eastern Europe and in Romania, the Orthodox Church, everyone's Christian. Almost everyone in the country is a Christian, and they are supported by the government. So the government is completely involved in the Orthodox Church. Our little church had no support from the government, and it was confusing to the Romanians who went there because they didn't understand that you had to support your church. So it was a struggle the whole time we were there, and one of the things that my husband and I did was teach them all kinds of ways to keep the church financially viable and for the future. So we loved our little church. I think that was the hardest thing to leave, was our church.
While there, you told me that you met one of the foreign journalists stationed in Bucharest.
Well, I did. Her name is Allison Mutler, and Allison was a warden of our church with my husband. So we were very close. She's an amazing reporter. I think that if you read any AP article,
right,
coming
she's
out
the main
of
person.
Romania, it will be written by Allison, and we, of course, became very close friends the whole time I was there.
Mm-hmm. So
I admire.
You wrote this book. Let's go back to the book and talk a little bit more about the reasons you wrote a story, and what did you try to accomplish by writing this book, beside writing, telling your own personal experience while living there. Why do you think it's a book that people should read?
I think that unless you talk to me, you wouldn't realize that it was part of my personal experience. It's really just like any other author. They use their personal experience to give it authenticity. I speak from a unique position. There were very few Americans like me that were as involved in the community as I was. You have people who come for short periods of time. You have people who get involved in one aspect. But because of my husband and I, we were involved much more deeply into the community and had much stronger friendships. So I think that, again, that's why people wouldn't necessarily identify us, but they would actually believe that we're writing from a position where we really do know what we're talking about. And I wrote it because I just felt like it needed to. I wrote it intentionally. It's not a very long book. The It's about the size of a long Agatha Christie novel. It was written so that my friends who were international friends would read it. It would not be too daunting. It would be fun. And they would see little parts of their international life within it. And so I tried to stick to that formula when I wrote it, not making it something that would put people off, but rather something people would enjoy reading.
Do you plan going back to Romania anytime soon, or are you still connected with the country or with the people over there?
I am. I have very close friends in Romania, and I do hope to go back next May, and that's the plan right now. And but you know, Romanians travel as well. So I've had one of my Romanian friends come here already to visit. So that's been fun.
So for the Americans or any other foreigner who haven't been to Romania, what message do you have for them? Why they should go to visit Romania?
My first advice is go now. Go now while all of these little towns outside of Bucharest are like they've been for the last 200 years. I think it's a great place to visit. It's safe. I think most people speak English. When you need somebody to speak English, there's going to be someone who speaks English. They love Americans. I don't remember anybody who was mean to me because I was an American. And they're bright and kind, and I just can't see any reason that. And it's reasonable. It's a very reasonable place to visit. Once you get there, you'll find there's so much to do that you can't do it all, if anything.
Mm-hmm. So going back to the book, where can people purchase or find this book? Is it in the stores, online? Where can they find it?
The easiest place to get it is always on Amazon. It's available on Kindle, and it's available in hardbook and paperback. It's not available in all the stores yet because it's still early, but anybody can order it through Barnes & Noble or Books A Million or any of the standard bookstores if it's not in the store now. It can be ordered online. I have a website, www.secretsinthevines.com, and you can also order it that way. And I'm on Facebook, and you can send me a message, and I'll be happy to mail you a book. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to me and tell us your experience about Romania. Hopefully, the people will purchase the book and express their opinion about it, and hopefully will enjoy it.
Well, thank you. Tell them I think there are a few, there are one or two little errors that are being corrected. I think they'll notice, but I think the hardest part about writing the book is editing when the editors have never been to Romania. So,
right. Yeah, I already make some suggestions of what to change, and probably in the next edition you will make those changes.
They have all been sent in. Thank you so much for your help and for the interview. I've really enjoyed it.